Sovereignty. One man's freedom is another's costs, and so it is with the much laboured issue of sovereignty. Except in the referendum debate, it is the loss of UK sovereignty to the EU that has been an issue. Brexiters have railed at the loss of sovereignty to the EU and the detriment arising. Remainers argue that loss of sovereignty is a price worth paying for the benefit of staying in the EU market of 500 million. For Brexiters, sovereignty is an absolutist position, a line not to be crossed. Remainers have assessed gains against loss of sovereignty. Brexiters have argued that the contrary is the case, and for the UK to stay in the EU carries a higher risk than for leaving it. It is a judgment call based on the interests of the parties that has determined the way they are inclined and the outcome they desire. The free movement of capital and labour interests multinationals for the economic advantage it confers to them over others. On the other hand, the free movement of labour is a valued freedom for the individual immigrating to the UK from the EU. Any imbalance that has thus been caused, the loss of jobs and poor paying conditions flowing from increased competition, is questioned by the Brexiters. Accountability and transfer of bargaining power from the people to corporations in any unaccountable way is an example of the loss of sovereignty. This is the case when the UK has been powerless to regulate affairs that it would normally do, for example by controlling immigration. So far as referendum is concerned, the power to decide whether to remain or leave the EU is entrusted to you, the voter, not to businesses. So for all these reasons, a good starting point in discussing sovereignty is to define it. What is sovereignty? Sovereignty has a long history across many different cultures, and it should not be surprising that it can arouse passions that have normally lain dormant. Black's Legal Dictionary defines sovereignty as the self-sufficient source of political power, from which all specific political powers are derived. In other words, a state enjoys sovereignty and power as a matter of right over all fields of government, except for those which are specifically removed from the remit of the state by the Constitution. The UK symbol of sovereignty are the Crown, Union Jack, the UK's pound currency, and the armed forces. Is it true that the UK shares sovereignty with the EU members? Shared sovereignty is a recognised concept in law, but normally pertains to a federal state. While the EU has not claimed to be a federal state, but neither has it disguised its ambitions. To all intents and purposes, the reach of European law into UK domestic law has completed a very important leg of the federal project. The EU is not a state, but on the other hand, its member states have not retained their full sovereignty and complete freedom to act. They have implicitly accepted to give up some of their powers to the EC or to share them within the Union. The UK does not have a written constitution. Parliament is the sole sovereign authority. Its powers to legislate had not only been constrained by its self-imposed convention and European Court's authority to strike down UK legislation. The UK's court have never questioned the competence of the Parliament to legislate on any matter it deems fit, only striking down legislation under European law or rarely under the Crown's prerogative. So jealously had Parliament preserved its authority on its area of competence. The claims of those that UK's sovereignty has been eroded cannot be easily dismissed.